Okay, good evening. It is October 8th. It is 4:11 p.m. and it's today's bargaining session between LCS and LCEA. And I'm gonna start with passing out the agenda. You can have it. All right. I'm bringing back Article 4 and I'm bringing back Article 18 as the first counter. So, but I'm gonna defer to you to start. I would like to end today's meeting. So,
That's fine. Before we get started, there is something that I wanted to say. Specifically to you, Mr. Zamora, and as well as to the district. We really appreciate, we know that things got a little heated and emotional last week, but we really appreciate the collaboration. Getting to work with you, the superintendent, Mr. Farnsworth and Scott Ward, has really been a pleasure, and we're really excited and happy about the progress that we made last week. And I also wanted to speak to some of the press releases that were sent out last week. Obviously, everything we do, we try to have it member led and make it a collaborative process and how things are put forward. But as a leader of this organization and how I view my role as a leader, I take that responsibility really serious. And I believe that everything at the end of the day falls on me. And so I do want to speak to some reflection that I've had about some of the communication that went out. And I believe that we could have done better. So I want to make that commitment to you as well as to the district. Moving forward, we want to continue that positive working relationship and the collaboration and make sure that our communication reflects that. So I just wanted to make sure that I speak to that here today before we get started.
I appreciate that because I was going to address that later, but since you brought it up, I'll address it now.
Absolutely.
Because there are certain things that basically they need to be out in the open, okay? And I have looked at all your press releases, all of them. And I'm one to say that I respect everybody's opinion, however they interpret things, facts, whatever the union or anybody in the district wants to say. And you as an organization represent your teachers. I represent all employees, teachers, non-instructional staff, administrators, and beyond, students, families, and all that. So to me, I try to respect everybody's viewpoints, okay? What I found very interesting in everything that you said, or not you, per se, like those press releases, is the wording. And you yourself and the board, LCA, you have been carrying a strong message about collaboration. So when you say that, and yet you start every press release with what the union is doing for its members, and then end on a negative notation of the district, that shows division. Now, I do understand everything that you guys are requesting. I get it. We get it. But it shows what I called or discord between the district and you guys, teachers. This part I'm gonna do because I care. What I'm gonna tell you now is because I care. Do you have any other social media other than the Facebook, LCEA?
No.
No. Okay. You have a website and a Facebook. Start celebrating your members. Start highlighting the schools and what your members are doing at schools. Start celebrating all the administration interacting with your members. You want more members? Start doing that, because if not, they're not going to be part of your organization. I don't care whether you have 80% membership to 20% membership. It don't matter to me any, 100%. But if all I see is those press releases, guess what families are seeing out there?
Well, if you're following our social media, that shouldn't be all you're seeing. In fact, we share a lot of the Lake County School
Correct.
information.
I've
Even if
seen,
we, Yeah.
I've seen FEA articles, I've seen, but I don't see members.
well, every post pretty much has pictures. We always highlight our members, and I do appreciate you giving that feedback because you care. And I do appreciate that you want to see us be successful. But I do want to make it really clear that our members are the ones that are gonna lead this work. And we're gonna listen to our members and what they want to see, because they're the leaders of this organization. Now, I do take that responsibility very serious, and so at the end of the day, I do want to own up to any challenges or issues or mistakes that we've made, which is why I publicly have said it here. Because I do believe that being a strong leader is taking responsibility. And I'm taking responsibility. But I think if we want to have conversations about what needs to be out there for the public, it needs to come from our members. Our members need to decide what we.
Well, I highly suggest you communicate to your members. That start showing, highlighting them, highlighting their schools, highlighting what they do, because I'll be honest, it doesn't help your organization. You know, we're battling in our district and in every school district, students are leaving our schools. There is a marketing campaign that we are working on with Sherry Owens, communications officers. I'll go further. Our superintendent, as part of FADS, with other superintendents, are working on a large campaign of public schools, highlighting their teachers, highlighting what the schools do, highlighting their administrators, because we want students to come to our schools, not to go to private, not to go to charter, not to go to scholarships, wherever they're going, because something is happening that they're leaving our local schools. It was communicated to me that you wanted an enrollment update. You're gonna get one today. Copies of every school, you're gonna get it. And if I cannot say this clearly enough, we have to stop using negative language. Fight. The district does not want to give us salary raises. And because that is not the case at all. I'll go further with that. You know, I'm gonna speak with facts because I don't want anybody to tell me, oh, Mr. Zamora said this because that's what he feels. No, this is not what I feel. Since 2017 and 18, this district has given $38 million in salary increases. 38.
And we've communicated that,
When
although I think
Mr.
our
Ward-
number was a little lower.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna give you the
Yeah.
true number, over $38 million. When Mr. Ward got to this district,
Mm.
the insurance fund had zero balance. He took it to today, we've contributed over $75 million. Now, you and I are in the insurance committee.
Mm.
Okay, you and I know that it's a big problem. Costs are going up. And I will say it out loud because you can actually confirm what I'm about to say. Year to date, what are we up?
On our insurance,
In claims.
I'll have that number
Okay,
memorized,
I'll have
you
it.
know?
You'll remember 7%. Over year to date to last year, 7%. So we just started the year, it's October, and we are 7% over budget. I'm concerned. 7. And we've given all that money. The board has always, every time we have an executive session, what can we do for our teachers? But not the teachers, what can we do to all our employees? All of them. So the average percent raise has, if I go back, all the way back to 17, 18, and I did the math, just because I was curious, 4%. That's the average teacher increase. Some years was 1 point something, some years was 2 point something, some years was 8 point something, some years was 4.5 or 3 point something. I did the math. 4% is the average salary increase. We've gone up from 40,400 to like 49,500 is our starting salary. Now, mind you, some of that was driven through state legislation, but that's what we given. The message has always been, we need to give back to our teachers. But if the message with your press releases that, like you say, your members are driving that communication is divisive,
So I would say that if we want to move away from the divisive nature of what is being communicated out, and what our members want to see, then we have got to move forward with more collaboration. Because what I'm hearing from my membership and from this caucus is that we're not seeing a lot of compromise on the language that we're putting forward. And when it comes to compensation, there's a lot of misinformation and miscommunication. And as you mentioned about the district not giving salary increases, we tried very hard to communicate that it was never a proposal, that there was never anything explicitly said. We've even put out videos explaining compensation. And I've even begged you, can we do more to explain compensation? Because the truth is our educators don't know. And I didn't even know until I got involved in the bargaining team. And I think everybody in this room can attest complexity of teacher salary in the state of Florida. And so if we can't come together to collaborate, to communicate better, we're going to continue having this problem. And I'm going to continue to get pushed from my members to put out press releases like that and to do more because they're not feeling it. We may have gotten $38 million and we go out and work says, I've been saying 36 million. So I was off by 2 million. But I've had members look me in the face and say, it doesn't matter what you tell me, I don't believe that I got a salary increase.
well, maybe
we've
you and I
got to
need
do
to
better
start,
on
maybe
that.
you and I need to start private meetings with those members that are telling you that to your face, and I'll pull up their record and show them what they received.
And I've even done that. I said, let's look at your salary summary. I've sat and had one-on-one conversations with members and non-members even, explaining this is where your master's pay, this is where your salary is. We've got to do a better job explaining it, because until the average rank and file educator understands their salary, I'm gonna continue to get pushback, and my members are gonna continue to expect different messaging come out of this local.
Well, if the messaging continues, just know that my communication to you is every time that you say negative communication about the district, you're speaking about your superintendent, you're speaking about our board. Your members are basically stating negative messaging about,
So how do we solve that?
that's not my forte. I'm just expressing what I see. Our enrollment is down, and I'm gonna give you today an update on it, that I'm gonna provide you a report. I'm gonna give you a 40-day count as of October 7th of where we are. And then I'm gonna do the simple math so everybody can understand how many millions of dollars that translates to when we get to that point in the agenda. But the messaging, if it doesn't change,
So I'm asking your help. Because I am a problem solver, and I think most of the people on this team are problem solvers. We've asked you before, can we make changes on how we communicate about the salary? Can we put out some videos? I've spent my own time in the evening recording videos, putting messaging out so people understood their salary. I spent
Okay.
time sitting with members. to
I
understand their salary.
can,
I'm doing the job of HR a lot of times.
okay, so then
I
I'll,
need your help.
okay, that's fine. I guess you and I need to sit down and meet to see if we can do a video on salary so they can understand where salary comes from and how it's
I think that
calculated.
would be incredibly helpful.
I am not going to say no to that because I understand what you're telling me. I get it. My biggest concern is that if that message doesn't change, that's what our families are seeing outside. So
Well, the biggest impact on the messaging is the district. If we can continue to collaborate and move forward, that messaging can change.
all right, but please understand something when you say the district. When you put proposals that cost money and we are losing enrollment and our insurance claims are going up, I'm going to ask you point blank, where would you like me to get the money from?
And we've said we'd love to have a subcommittee to look at the budget and talk about.
It doesn't matter. We put a budget out there that's at 3%. We put $3 million into budget to cover the shortfall of health insurance last year. And I'm still gonna ask you, where do I get to pull money for the increase in cost. If we had the fund balance at 20%, like some districts for some reason have at 20%, because they have other referendums as part of their local revenue, that's different. We don't have that. Our local revenue comes for safety and security, not for teacher salaries. I'm not Monroe County that puts a referendum that gives almost $20,000 to the teachers for salary. But what it is to live in Monroe County, Key West, I want to go live down there.
Right, but every Central Florida county around us has some sort of referendum.
That's fine, but that's not, that is not mine. That is something that's beyond you and I. Okay, those are conversations that need to happen beyond us.
Well, and I'm glad you're saying that, because I think
So,
that's definitely a conversation.
all right, and that involves other factors that we cannot discuss, so.
And I do want to also say, I appreciate you sharing the healthcare piece, because we're problem solvers. We even brought forward ideas to help health insurance.
Mhm.
We're not gonna say this is a problem without offering solution. We are always willing to come up with solutions and work together to collaborate, and we've done that with health insurance. But we have got to also communicate the health insurance piece better too. People are still
No,
very upset about Vivio. People are still very upset about what's happening with our healthcare centers, even though we tried to do messaging about that, but we need help from the district too. We worked on a collaborative video, and I haven't seen that video. It's not even on YouTube.
And that's a message that I need to take back to risk management.
And I've asked Jerry Owens about that.
Okay, that's.
And again, the communication about budget, we have to say with our whole chest where we are budget wise, and we're not doing that. And I understand the political climate and that there's fear, and that fear is valid. But until we truly say both sides with our whole chest, what's happening to our public schools and why our budget looks the way it is, we're gonna struggle. That's the collaboration and the messaging piece that we're missing.
Okay. I will relay your message.
Thank
But
you,
I'm
Lito,
sure-
and I appreciate you having this conversation with me and being vulnerable enough to have that conversation. It shows a lot of respect for myself
Mhm.
and this organization to be able to talk these things. So thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything that I missed? Anything y'all want to add? Before we go on? That doesn't know, okay. So we're gonna go ahead and get started on our salary proposals, or not salary, sorry, salary on the mind. Grievance procedure is our Article 9, so that's our next item. So it's gonna come around. Oh, I think that's it. So I'll wait for y'all once it comes around. Oh, sorry.
Starting on both and also next week. Recording in progress. What's actually? Just want to make sure everybody gets one. Sit down. Yeah. Are there enough?
Yeah.
Do you have enough? We don't.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. You guys.
Everybody got it? Good. So, in the spirit of collaboration and compromise, we'll see that we have, on both proposals that we're putting forward today, trying to move closer and closer to a compromise. We've accepted, I would say, the majority of the language the district put forward, so you'll see that in green. We still have the blue. I don't think there's any red on any of these proposals today, so you'll see that. But I'll just say that it is very much in our interest to get done as soon as possible with bargaining. We are stressed, and trying to get all these things accomplished, and try to have the best contract possible. So we hope that, you, Mr. Zamora, and the district is willing to compromise and move forward, because it would be wonderful if we could be done with full vote before Thanksgiving break. So that is a public commitment that I'm trying to move towards, at this moment.
Well, I hope you got an update today that I'm trying to work on the other two counters on those other
I
articles.
did, we had a great meeting with Mr. Feltner and he spoke about both Article 10, 11, and the MOU on mentoring.
Correct, I have that final data for him, and we have to clean the experience on that file, so that way I can truly give him who are the teachers that have
Wonderful.
no experience.
Okay, so you'll see on page 1, I don't think we touched anything. It's the same and agreed upon language. Page 2. I think there's just a little grammar correction there, or the pronouns, so his, theirs crossed out and it's just a. Wrong. Wrong notes.
Yeah.
Okay. Article 9, section 5, procedure, page 2 looks good, all agreed upon language. The only part that we brought back is step 3 here. And we had Angela bring forward some of the rationale for why we originally proposed this language, but we never did a counter. So we are now countering with that rationale that Angela Dawson brought forward for us about the American Arbitration Association. So if you remember, back in August, so it's August 27th, when she was here, she spoke about the fact that the arbitrators are basically the same in both associations and the cost difference is minimal. The rate of pay isn't really different. It's just the filing fee that's different for the organizations. It's a difference of maybe $200, but the actual cost of arbitration is the same. So that's why we were adding that back in. And there was some concern in case, with everything happening in the Department of the Federal Department of Education and Labor, there's all kinds of changes happening. So we want to have something in place in case any of those organizations change. So that's where that language comes from. So it was the rationale that was presented on August 27th. So it was basically, I don't think we changed anything there, we just added it back. Am I correct in that?
Yes. I will tell you this, I'll remind you, I did consult with our board attorney.
Okay, so you did speak after we spoke. on this one? Okay.
And the board attorney did not recommend me going with AAA, so I'm just giving you that feedback.
Okay. Speak that. Okay, so, the recommendation here, if you're open to it, is to striking the AAA and just leaving or any such service, which is mutually agreed upon. Would you be open to that?
I'll get back to you.
Okay. And then how about in the next paragraph there, that language, again, we were just adding it back. What we originally proposed, did you have any feedback on that?
No, we felt like we had a good process for it. And again, I went back on when was the last time we had a grievance that went through that whole entire process? Years. So
Right.
we believe we still have a good process in place. We request 7 names, you strike 3, we strike 3. The last one is the one we both agree on and we move forward. So I just didn't, because we were not adding the other agency, we felt that there was no need to change the language. But I'm just giving you the feedback that back the rationale behind it.
Right, I
Not
think our
our
rationale was
intentions
leaving.
of trying to change language that technically we have a plan that I cannot see or have evidence that it has been an issue with this language. So I would understand if you had an issue with the grievance, that we have documented evidences that we had issues with the FMCS, or I could understand we had issues with the way we chose arbitrators, but I can't find anything on it. So I default to, why would I want to change language that I don't have any proof that there's an issue with it?
Right, so I guess, again, going back to what I've said since the beginning of bargaining, when we present language, it's not because there's an issue necessarily. We're presenting language to update and improve and have codified what we want to see in our contract. So we're trying to update language because some of this language hasn't been touched in over 20 years. And arbitration language is part of that. The truth is, I don't think our organization filed grievances probably in the past 10 or 20 years.
Correct.
So this is a process that hasn't really been used. So we're trying to update and make sure it reflects modern language. So if you wanna speak with a lawyer about striking the AAA, we're willing to compromise on that. But if we can come to some agreement on the arbitration language as well to update it, we appreciate that. We're willing to compromise and come to the table with something in the middle.
I will look into it.
The last paragraph there, then, again, that language I think isn't new. I think we were just adding back the for monetary awards. The arbitrator will be requested to retain jurisdiction until the award is paid. Everything else is crossed out there. So we agreed upon that. So page 4, nothing there, so that's all agreed upon changes already. Page 5, Article 9, Section 7. We agree upon striking that language and then the rewrite, so we agree upon that there. We did add new language here in blue that says the board and the grievant shall not be permitted to assert in such arbitration proceeding any ground or rely on any evidence not previously disclosed to the other party. Both parties agree that the award of the arbitrator shall be final and binding. So this actually came from other contracts that we noticed was missing. So we've added that part because of that missing language.
Okay.
Okay, page 6 is agreed upon language, nothing new there. Page 7, same thing. Agreed upon language, nothing new there. And I think the only other thing is at the very bottom, the last bullet of page 8. I believe, y'all added,
I have pointed out that I think the wrong article was
yes.
this.
So we just added the number 15.
That's fine.
Okay. So I think that's all for grievance procedure.
Great.
Okay, ready for the next one, Article 17?
Yes.
And I'll wait for this to come around as well.
Cool. Right.
So I think there's just blue and green here as well. I apologize for the 2 shades of green. Green should be green here. All of page 1, and we forgot to number these, so I apologize. I'm under my pages really quick. So page 1 is, we've agreed on all of that language. Page 2 is where we have some language that we've added back. So Jessica is going to speak to that language.
So we've added the language to match the process, what actually happened this year with involuntary transfers and the shifting of allocations. There should also be an incentive to volunteer for transfer. We believe it benefits the district to work to keep employees. it helps morale if they can voluntarily transfer, and if they can select. If they can select where they want to go. It also benefits the district if we keep the current employees instead of having to take on the cost of onboarding new employees. Plus, it's less time to wait for new employees.
So it reads, in the event of a need to shift instructional allocations and as a result, involuntary transfers are needed, the association will be provided with a list of impacted instructional employees. Impacted instructional employees will have the opportunity to first volunteer for voluntary transfer. Instructional employees who voluntarily transfer should be exempt from involuntary transfer for the next 2 school years. The impacted instructional employees will be contacted by district leadership and will be given an opportunity to accept any open assignment for which the instructional employee is qualified. If this for which the educator is certified and or qualified, the instructional employee shall be offered a position prior to the assignment of other voluntary transfers or new hires. And I did mention to Mr. Faulkner today that we really appreciate the communication with the superintendent, him, you and Chad and Scott Ward about the transfers that we had happen this year. Where we had to move some educators because of allocations and changes, and that really helped us to be able to communicate to our folks concerned and kind of de-escalate and help those concerns. And so that's where some of this language came from, with that process and how we worked through that earlier this year. And obviously with enrollment allocation changes, this could happen again. It's a real reality for us, so.
Yes, it is.
That's where the language comes from.
I would say that that MOU has been processed to the T. I actually processed the MOU for the incentive for
Yes.
3 more
thank you.
employees today, so.
Excellent.
And I didn't miss a beat. They all got it within 1 pay period, not the 2 that I had put.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for that. And I know you helped with some of those employees that were left off at first. Section 4, so that's page 3, is new language. Everything else there is agreed upon in green. So this was, we crossed out must here and added shall, but we agree upon the other language there. So the association shall be provided written notice, and then we added language back there that says at least, and I think it said 15. So we crossed that out and made it say 5 days prior to board action. Right. It's kind of related to what we saw. Yeah.
So. No, yeah, I answered my own question.
Okay. Everything else there is agreed upon. Oh, the upon, yeah. So the end of section 4, you'll see a blue upon there. That should have,
It was there.
yeah, it should be green. The district board may not prioritize retention of employees. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Section 4, or I'm sorry, page 4. New section 5 here, that's agreed upon language. Did I skip you, John? No. So that was you. Right. It was section 6 and now it's section 5.
Oh, confused.
Okay. So Bobby's gonna speak to the language that we've added, oh, you're right,
Yeah,
Wait a second.
sorry,
but are you gonna talk about them?
yes, thank you.
Section 5?
So there is a section 6 now, it's a new section 6, previous section 6, now section 5, we added language at the very bottom.
Give me 1 second. please.
Sure,
Okay, it's just something that you have moved section 5 up to section 2, that's why.
Yes.
yes.
Okay, got it, I'm good, go on.
Okay, so at the very bottom there, we've just added, if this redistribution occurs within 20 days of the transfer period, all affected employees receive a written notice of reappointment status prior to redistribution. And this again goes back to what happened earlier this year with the opening of Mineola Horizon Academy and Windy Hill and Grassy Lake. we just really believe it would help educators to be able to know what to do if they knew that they were being reappointed. There were a lot of educators that were in this position where they had to look at the new school, but maybe they wanted to stay at the school that they were at, but they hadn't been told they were reappointed yet. So that's where that language comes from. So they can make a decision about where they go, what their next steps are. Section 6, recall of reduction in force. So we've added this language back. I don't think we made any adjustments to it. So it just says recall must be offered in reverse order of reduction in force. No new instructional employee shall be hired in a reduction in force instructional employees area of certification until all certified and fully approved reduction in force instructional employees approved reduction in force instructional employees area of certification have been recalled, have declined or failed to accept recall. So Bobby's gonna speak to that.
And this, when we talked about this before, you know, this could be a complex process that might delay hiring. And so it would be something that we would have to collaborate on to come up with a process that would make it workable. I have seen this before in another district where I worked, where the bargaining group assisted in this process because it's to the good of the members. And we don't have any timeframes or anything on here because it's really kind of a new road. But with people being laid off, if you can rehire those people if they're not in a contract, and usually there's a cap on that time. If we could rehire people that have already worked here or bring them back, you know, within a short amount of time, it's going to benefit the district because we're gonna get educators that we know are highly qualified to be here and already know our district. So that's the goal of this.
Yeah, also Sumner County has language that reflects this. They actually go into a lot more detail. I can send that to you if you'd like me to.
I will go over my notes on this because I have a lot of notes on this, so before I respond.
Okay. And then the last section 7 there, we have added some language back, but agreed to half of that language. So it says we've added back when employees are required to relocate to another school or work site for longer than 30 calendar days. The instructional employee will be covered under workman's compensation while working outside of contract hours to support the move. Instructional employees will be given release time for up to 2 full days for the move with approval of the administration. So Jessica's gonna speak to that.
We add this because if they're working outside contract hours, they should still be covered under workman's comp. And the release time wouldn't cost any money versus having to get a sub, like or pay them like we had originally requested, just for them to get money.
So the only thing here that I have to say is I have to verify with risk management on the workman's comp coverage, okay?
And everything else is agreed upon. That's all we have for this article. So the only other thing that we had here was the other topics of discussion, which is about the enrollment and allocation update. Did you want to speak to that now or after?
After,
Okay.
and I'll do it at the end.
And I think that's all we have.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start on Article which one is that, 18? 18, I'm passing back 18. I believe this is the first counter with 18, because I recall, I hadn't brought it back yet. All right, we have to look at data on it, so. Okay, everybody have a copy?
We're good.
All right. Section 1, we do not agree with expanding the definition at this time, so we crossed that out because we're gonna leave it just like we have it on the transfer of leave MOU. And we're not expanding to grandparent and grandchild unless they're living that under the current definition, if they're a member of their own household, then that would qualify them for that purpose. So that's one, we are keeping it, and we're keeping that language the same. And obviously, we agree on everything that says instructional employee, so I didn't feel like that needed to be any other color but green. You had put under each section, whether it's paid or unpaid. That to me, as I read through this and we started looking at paid leaves and unpaid leaves, everything's a mix. You can have potentially somebody get paid or unpaid depending on which leave they take. So I'd rather leave that off. And if an employee has a question, whenever the employee fills out a personal leave time, we always guide them on the paperwork and we always tell them how much they're gonna get paid or not get paid. So we rather keep that without that definition per section. So that's why we cross those parentheses between each section. Section 4, maternity leave and parental leave. And we do not agree with that language, and it's simply, we went back and looked at our maternity leave for last year. We had 47 teachers that took maternity leave. And if I would apply the cost of 10 days to the district, it would have been $124,422.
Can you say that number again?
$124,422. Looking at their pay rate, giving them the 10 days, and then that's what it would cost. 17 of them never returned. They decided to stay home because they want to start a family or stay with the baby, which is perfectly, it happens every year. So the other piece of this was the part that when I start going through this article, cost does not include spouses working in the district. So we don't have a system in place that tracks spouses. And not every employee puts who their spouse is in the system or any type of emergency information, which I find it quite interesting that they don't put all that information in case of an emergency. So even to check what other costs are associated with this, I couldn't tell. I could have had a parental leave go on a personal leave and not a parental leave because they knew that would get paid if it takes 6 personal days. Or if it's like if it's any employee, I couldn't pick up who did parental leave and who was maternity because I couldn't data-wise classify them as that. So that presents a challenge. So I don't know what underlying costs are out there with this leave. So therefore, at this time, we cannot accept an additional cost. And we do accept the instructional or adoption instructional employees and the beyond the time of paid leave. We do not accept that language. When the instructional cleared to active employment, the employee, we did accept that because I think we rewrote it in the employee requires actual. Okay, so we rewrote a portion here because on B, letter B. We struck that an instructional employee notifies superintendent, we added the word or designee that the doctor has certified. I gotta remove the her, there's an issue there, I shouldn't have the pronoun her there, so
This is about woman who gave birth.
you're right, I should probably leave it at her, so. Has certified her physically capable to return to active employment after a leave granted for childbearing. The instructional employee will be assigned to the same position if such positions are available. This screen, did I make a mistake with that new language? The instructional employees. Okay, that's fine. Oh, it's just my note goes with the next section. I apologize. I was reading a note that goes along with section 1, pregnancy. And we agreed to take off a full-time member of the instructional staff.
Could I ask a question before you?
Yeah.
go? For section B, with that language, if such positions are available, what happens if there isn't a position available?
We will find them a position based on their certification and all that. It's just, if we filled the position because they needed to teach a classroom and we didn't have anybody. If they return, I can have it leave at the end of the year, I have to fill it. Next year, allocations change. If there is no position for the person, I will have to put them in a position that's equal to what they have.
So doesn't it already say that though? Like, will be assigned to the same position or to an equivalent position? Couldn't you just end it there? Why would you need to say if such positions are available?
If you add that, it's acting like you don't have to give them a
Yeah,
position.
that's what it sounds like.
I'll double check our data on that. So I believe I have to go back to all the materials. Typically they return to the same position, so. Let me put a note on that, okay? Okay.
Seems like a privilege position.
And then could you also speak?
Give me one,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
okay. Go ahead, ask your question.
I was just looking for further clarification about in A, crossing out of beyond the time of paid leave. What was the reasoning for removing that?
Go ahead and explain it.
So, the reason that that's in there is because in the sentence, the part before referring to remain on leave beyond the time when accumulated leave is exhausted, it's basically saying the same thing.
Redundant.
Yeah.
Accumulated sick is exhausted or is beyond the time paid leave. It's the same thing.
Okay.
That's a sick leave that's exhausted. They don't, if it's paid, if it's exhausted, they don't have any paid leave.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I think Jessica had a clarification on the first page too. She wanted to ask about.
I have a question with
Right.
the,
Which,
with the immediate family,
mhm.
how come you took out the, blood marriage or legal adoption? Because we've had people that have been denied, bereavement leave for a step parent, that is the actual person who brought them up, they lived with them their whole life.
So is that it? Where did I cross that out?
Well, we added that in the very front, when we did the definition, when we defined it.
Because everything in the contract stipulates the same definition for all, so we don't want to expand the definition.
Okay.
Like if you look at father, mother, brother, that's how we have it defined in the whole entire. That means that I will have to change leaves in all parts of the contract and expand that definition.
But shouldn't it include by marriage or legal adoption? That's, I mean, blood, marriage, legal adoption, we're not asking you to add grandparents or anything, we're asking with those to include adoption or marriage along with blood.
That's expanding that's expanding the definition.
So I guess when we go back to thinking about messaging and collaboration. This is a great example of that. I had a member reach out to HR for bereavement leave and she had a step parent who passed away. That step parent basically raised her. And the communication to that person from whoever was in HR that she was reaching out to said, the union wrote this language and that's why you're not getting your bereavement. As if it was on us and it was, we were the problem. So.
Was the step parent living with them?
They're adults, so they're not living with them now. They raised her. They lived with them their whole childhood, just like a regular mom or dad. I mean, and that's, a lot of our families are like that.
And was the step parent was a legal guardian of her raising her or him?
Right, that's what our understanding is it was like somebody that had raised them, had been in their life the whole time, and we don't wanna appear like we're a barrier for people getting bereavement leave, for people that's their parent.
I'm gonna have to check on that,
Okay.
if that request. Now, hope the result
We have, well, we can look things up and maybe they could provide that correspondence so we know.
yeah, if we can collaborate on that so that I can check on the reason as to why. There's always more to every story
Right.
before I can speak to it.
Okay, so I apologize for your,
No, I'll go ahead and research that with leaves. Where did I leave off on section?
page 3.
Which is
Page 3,
3.
pregnancy. We agree with the removing, you have request to remove a full-time member of the instructional staff. We left an instructional employee who is pregnant. We accepted Will. And when the instructional confirms, and when the instructional employee confirms being pregnant, which is to take maternity leave, the instructional employee may file with the superintendent or designee a rent application for leave. So we kept our language. We denied basically that portion that you started must provide a rent statement from the medical healthcare provider that certifies the start date employee is unable to fulfill assigned duties. We asked for that leave already, so it's part of the application. So correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the there's no reason to add that language. And when possible, the effective date of the suspension of services will be mutually agreed by the instructional employee and the immediate administrator. That's typically what happens, is just on the application is when they're returning to work. The rest of the language we kept, that's why it's blue, because I believe you had striking out some of that
Yeah.
language. So that's why I put it in blue, just to let you know that I kept the old language, added some blue one. And then I put at the bottom, the date by the leave will commence on the day determined by the instructional employer in consultation with the licensed healthcare provider. The instructional employee's leave will terminate upon certification by the licensed healthcare provider, their doctor, that the instructional employee is physically capable of performing assigned duties of teaching.
Can it not say teaching? Because some of us aren't.
Assigned duties of,
No, just assigned.
period. Okay, I'll make a note of that. Can you-
And Bobby also has 2 from Radar things.
The will that you'll read on, over the top there, in that first line, there's already another will there, so we have 2 wills.
No, that is-
Last will.
So I don't know which will you want, but they both make sense, but whatever suits you. So we either have to take out the first will or the second will, but the
Second.
wills, too many.
We'll take the second one off.
Okay, and then, in about the center of the paragraph, where the blue starts, where it says such a decision will be, there's a her, if you just cross it out, it'll still make sense.
I did cross it out. It didn't come up. I have it crossed out of my document, so.
Carrying out her, you cross out the her,
Oh, no.
No, I missed that one. Sorry.
that's okay, it just makes sense without it, so you don't have to have it if you don't want it.
You're correct. Crossed out. Her. Okay. Number 2. You had stricken out that portion and then we decided, the district. Maternity leave should not be working because they're not, we've always we've had in this past district issues that we get a personal leave on a maternity leave. And then we had in the contract that they can return and work as subs. Well, we have a paper from a healthcare physician saying that they should not be working. And you can't do that. So that's the reason why we struck that off. And then we took maternity leave and left an instructional employee on parental leave, nothing to teach during such leave. Because the parental leave is not it's an employee that's choosing to be on parental leave, but they are not medically held to not work. They can work. I believe we checked and we had 2 employees last year
For parental?
for parental leave or maternity leave.
No, but for parental,
Yeah, that's what I was talking.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I believe we had 2 individuals, 2 employees that actually did this, that actually subbed. So,
That's-
and that we noticed that issue when we had a medical doctor's note saying that they should not be working. So, and that's part of the reason why we struck that language there on maternity. And parental leave is not a medical leave, so that's okay. That's what we left parent. And that's number 2. Moving on to section 5. We have to hold X amount of staff in the school. We do not agree with removing the last sentence. A principal may not approve personally for more than 10% of the school. We need to keep some instructional balance in our schools on staff. As it is, sometimes it's very hard to pick up subs to cover. So as it is, we have spots around the district that are hard to maintain staff, even when somebody is out sick. So it will put an undue burden on the district for us to be able to approve 20% of the staff on a given day.
So
Now-
we understand that. That's not why we struck the language. It wasn't a matter of,
So why was the,
because our contract is instructions for instructional staff, not
Principals.
principals.
Yeah, it's not that we disagree with it, it's just that this is not for principals, this is for instructional employees.
So if you want something like that in here, so people are aware, I mean, we could reword it or something.
Something like superintendent's designee.
so you want me to change a principal to the superintendent or designee will not approve personally for more than 10% of instructional staff?
Yes, something along the line, but the request may be denied in the event that more than 10% of the instructional staff at a work site on a given day. Something like that, where it's not,
It's not a directive to the principals in
Making,
this contract.
make a note of that. Okay, got it. I'll make a notation of that
exactly.
and I'll read.
We understood the intent of it, but of it
Okay,
wasn't
okay.
appropriate.
Section 6, there was nothing there. It was just the what I expressed before about the section headings. And Section 7, the instructional employee must submit official verification of jury duty attendance from the courthouse to receive paid leave. We have gotten people that work that put jury duty and they just submit an email. We need official documentation that they were on jury duty. So we're just adding that language because we need that some type of copy that they were at the courthouse.
What, I'm just kind of asking, because I'm just thinking about this happened to me, actually. What if they get released? Like, do you just want evidence that they got called and showed up? But then what happens if they don't have to stay the whole day? Like, what are the protocol for that?
If they were,
We can-
Yeah.
Is that
yeah,
okay?
yeah,
All right, so a subpoena to appear is just saying you call the night before, you may be on duty that day for jury duty. If you are truly called and you have to arrive, they will do one of 2 things. Some county, and I don't know what Lake County is doing currently, but some will give you an actual letter saying you served. And you get that from the clerk that you actually served jury duty. If you would sit there, some will actually take a date stamp and stamp the summons form that you were present. So you don't necessarily, some people are not there all day long.
Right.
But if they sit and they serve, they showed as expected, they will get either a stamp on the original summons form or an actual letter from the clerk saying they did
'Cause I
appear for
I
for
served
duty.
5 years ago, and I don't remember getting any of that, except I do remember a letter that was given to me after the fact, like weeks after it was mailed to my house,
No.
like, thank you for serving.
Yeah, no, you will get, it. You can get it.
That's how I did it.
The
I just
clerk.
was there, and they stamped, they stamped my thing, I did not understand their system. So I filled out, and then I wound up, taking the rest as a personal day after I went and found out that I did not understand their system. So, but then they told me there is something they give you when you leave. So.
So
if
that's
I
what
had-
would be submitted.
So
But
if I had
if
stayed.
you had the stamp, we have accepted the stamp.
Okay.
Oh, I.
All we need is verification that you were there.
As long as you.
Sorry, because we have some that would take 3 days.
Oh.
They only were there one day.
Well, I guess I can fix that.
But also because being in high school, you would have to get a sub anyway.
Yeah, I had to get a sub
you would
ahead of
have-
time, and, because we can't wait till the day before, we won't get a sub, and then that causes the hardship at the site,
Correct.
so, oh, thank
So
you.
the intent is just, we need verification that you were there, that's all. It's not, we're not gonna pay you, it's just we need documentation that you were there.
But obviously they wouldn't have that at the beginning,
No,
so they
They'll
can still
get-
put in.
they
for it.
still can put in for it and do all that.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, section 8. Section 8. This is probably an example of what we agree on collaboratively, that yes. I agree, I just modified it. Meaning, insurance group may apply for temporary duty for certificate testing with principal or department head approval. And the only reason we say that is because they need to be notified so they can get whatever needs to happen for coverage. We have no issues with that. You're doing something that benefits you professionally, professional growth, and it helps the district. So yes, we have no issues with that. Again, the employee, social employee must submit official verification of testing attendance to receive paid temporary duty fee. And that is just a confirmation of testing, test results with the date, whatever, something that shows that they were testing. Okay? So, but you had put the same language, we just modified it so that we can get verification. So we agree with that. Military leave. And we added language here, the employee shall submit extended leave application with attached official documentation of military orders from the armed forces to the superintendent or designee to receive paid military leave. You wanna elaborate anything on that? Or we good on that?
It'll probably come out of the.
Yeah, so then I'll continue on and we'll answer questions as we go. You had moved this from bottom of section 9. Then A at the bottom. Not here. We agreed to remove the bottom corner of reserve guard training because it says may be granted by the board, and when so granted will be without loss of time. We're not, I'm not sure why the language before said efficiency rating. Because I don't remove anybody's efficiency rating. And I'm not sure if that was an old evaluation term that was used
Yeah.
before. So that's the reason we had stricken that language. And I had to put a question on myself. Do you know any history on that or any? Because we didn't understand that either. So if you agree, we'll agree to remove that ending part of that paragraph.
Yeah, I believe we would agree to that.
Okay, so. This one, I'm gonna defer to my experts with leave because there are reasons as to why. We don't accept that language. I'm gonna try to explain it at first, and then I'm gonna defer to Mr. Myers and Ms. Olafson to explain. First, the instructional employment, you added language that said the instructional employment may also use accrued leave. But the combined total military pay supplement and accrued leave cannot exceed the regular rate of pay for that period. We disagree with the language, but I'd rather them explain how military leave works and how we pay it, so that maybe will clarify any confusion out there.
Thanks. Okay, so military leave, when someone receives orders, and they are to report for military duty, no matter what branch. We ask that they fill out that extended leave form, they submit that along with their military orders. At that point, we will process it, we'll look at the calendar period, because the military calendar is a different calendar period than our school year calendar or our fiscal calendar. And what we will do is, let's say they had, orders that called them up for 60 days. We will process their, 240 hours, which when you look at an instructional staff member, that's equivalent to 32 days. We will process, that time. So they get paid their full salary for those 32 days upfront. So when we read this, and am I good to?
Yeah.
Okay, so when we read this, it sounded like you wanted them to get their military pay and for us to supplement up to so that they didn't lose their daily wage. Is that correct?
So, yeah, so this just came from, we went and looked at the statute and the federal guidelines and the state guidelines for this. And so we just wanted to make it clear, according to the federal guidelines, they cannot make more, they basically can't get double dipping. So that's what they were saying, that they have to, they can get as much as they make at, they make here. We can't overpay them. So that's what we were looking at. And I think we took it straight out of,
I would have to go back and look at that
Yeah.
because I'm not sure that your wording
Yeah.
is correct there.
but
Because we as the district say, let's give them that money based on the.
yeah, they have
confirmed
so many
orders.
days they don't get paid and they would get paid from us.
Correct.
And then they would start getting their pay. And then they would start getting, if they have any pay due from us.
Well, the way we're interpreting this language, it looks like we're gonna limit their pay from us. And we don't wanna limit their pay.
No, no.
So
it's
that's part of the reason of the strike through there. We'll double check the statute again. But that was all. We pay them their 240 hours. So,
And the other part of this is, a lot of times military orders, when we receive them, may not necessarily designate the amount they're getting paid. It should, but there are orders that I have seen that does not have a monetary, notation. So now that would be really cumbersome to try and say, now you've got to document, what are you getting paid? And provide more documentation to us just to initiate the process.
That helps.
And we
Okay.
do have a he in that paragraph down at the bottom. Might want to change that to the instructional employee.
yep, see it. Where it says he is expected, yep, notate that one, please. Okay, the other portion, in the bulleted, somebody had a question?
No.
Okay. The section where an instructional employee may be granted military leave of absence, provided that, and you bulleted each one. The first one says the instructional employee is inducted into the armed forces via the Selected Service Act or volunteers in lieu of induction. And we have had no draft since 1973. It is not current law for people to volunteer in lieu of induction. This only applies in times of conscription, where someone enlists to avoid being drafted. So that's why we had rejected that language. The second portion says the instructional employee enlists in the armed services during the period our forces are engaged in combat. The instructional employee is recalled to active service for reserve status. So let me go back. Today, when a person enlists, is voluntary, not in lieu of induction. So then when they enlist, not needed in contract, because when a person enlists and gets called for combat, guess what? They're on leave. They're on an approved leave. So the orders are there. So they're on active duty. The employee will move to reserve to act, from reserve to active immediately. So we don't understand why the language is needed when that's the process we follow anyways. So that's the reason for the rejection of the language there. And anything else?
Do you want me to talk to the voluntary?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
in the first section, one of the topics that we hadn't covered yet was you guys had wanted some language regarding voluntary. So like Mr. Zamora just commented, if someone volunteers to join, or let's say in the time of war, they volunteer to enter, that puts them into an active status. What our term and the way that we're referencing voluntary is we do have military members that volunteer just to go back in at any given time. And that's where it becomes a little bit more cumbersome or difficult because I can think of one instance right off the top of my head where this person continued to volunteer, where they were very limited as to their employment or active status here as an employee because the contract pay on the military was so much more. So now we have a position that we're holding for an employee, yet they are continuing to ask to go back, let me go back, and the students are being impacted. So I wasn't sure what you were meaning by voluntary. I'm assuming you were thinking voluntary, I'm gonna ask to go in the time of need or whatever it might be, not someone that is just repeatedly wanting more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
So we have that difference in language when we're talking about voluntary. Because at some point it does make an undue hardship on the school and the district for someone that just keeps wanting to go back and go back. Which we thank them for their service, but.
Oh, can I proceed?
Yeah.
Okay, section 10. Language was just the instructional employee, so, and that's pretty much agreed upon. Section 11. And we agreed on some of the language, but added a portion of it because part of it was your language, but we added some portions to it. If the leave is granted and upon return to active employment, the instructional employee will assign via to a separate or to an equivalent position if such position is available. That's again repeating the language that was before. We kept the uniform because that we still had the same language on the other section. That doesn't mean that they're not gonna have the same equal position. It just means it all depends when they return, whether that position is available for us to provide it. If not, we have to find the employee a position.
But isn't that doesn't to an equivalent position clarify that already? Why do we need to add if such position is available? Again, it sounds like you're saying if there's not a position available, you're not gonna find them
And
something.
that's fine. I'm gonna go back and look at all the people that have returned and see what we've done to
Okay.
make sure we follow the same protocol. I understand. I made a note of that already with the other one. So. Well, no language changes there other than the instructional employee. 13. The his to the. And on letter C. 14, there's no changes there. 15, sabbatical leave, no changes. Family and Medical Leave Act. And needless to say, we comply with the FMLA guidelines, which are federally mandated. We didn't understand why we needed to add Department of Labor opinion letters. Those are just, it's part of the Family Medical Leave Act. So we wanted to add language basically that states the obvious: parties agree to comply with provisions and protections of the Family Medical Leave Act, which the Family Medical Leave includes all that. So we didn't think that is necessary. Family Medical Leave Act is not a type of leave, it's a protection. So it's for protection for all those employees who are on leave, sick, maternity, whatever the reason it may be, to meet the stipulations of the eligibility under their provisions. So that's the only reason we rejected that portion there. And
So could I ask about that
Yeah.
really quick before you go on? So, why not at least keep the last sentence?
When the insurance employee returns from Malaysia.
No, where it says the district will provide information and guidance on FMLA.
We already do, they always call us and we provide it already.
Right, so I guess we're codifying that and saying,
I can make a note of that, okay? The district will provide information and guidance on FMLA regarding, okay, on an applied leave for FMLA. Bereavement leave. So bereavement leave, you had expanded to 5 days when we had 2 days, so I got the cost of that. 2 days cost last year, 49,914. Expanding that to 5 days would be a total of $124,786. That added difference is basically another 75,000. So I'm just rounding to give you a solid number. The actual number was 74,872. So at this time, we can expand that. We have 2 days. We don't expand on the definition, but you have proposed 90. We are counting that with 60 days. Use it within 60 instead of the 30 that we originally had. And we understand the reasoning behind that. It's just, we feel 60 is the middle ground. And we cannot expand it for each occurrence of qualified death because it will, I don't know what it would multiply the cost of that depending on how many people have multiple death in the family. I don't recall, do we have any?
There is.
There are,
They are, so,
we didn't calculate that.
we didn't calculate the number because it just exponentially grows from there. So if I wanted to give you what it would have been for the people that requested 2 days, what would have been for them to have 5. So it's just to show you, it just keeps increasing costs. And it's not that the district doesn't want to do it, it's just we're trying to control our expenses in an era that we want to control them again, like what we've talked about, salaries and health. So it's where we are trying to keep them on.
so if we can expand to the 5 days, is there a way we could add language? If someone has more than one death in 1 year, that they could still get that bereavement? Because we have had employees that like lost their mom and their dad same school year. Or their husband and their mom in the same school year, and I think some were made to the bereavement, because I know of one individual in particular
I
that,
know what you're talking about.
so. If we're doing it for one employee,
So you want added language, what you're requesting is for us to consider having language that be considered like an application or some sort, or like if it considered like you do with
like
like sick bank.
yeah,
So when a person has a qualifying death in their family, do you require documentation?
Yes. Okay, make a note of that. Let us work to see if I can. Because I have to look at what we know. I believe we're talking about the same employee. And if it involves the superintendent, I think we're talking about the same employee. Because I remember me having a discussion about it, so.
those individuals have a rough year, so we do something for them, yeah, no.
Okay. Just make a note of that, we'll look at language specifically. Like on an appeal or approval
Okay.
to the superintendent, okay. I can make a note of that and I can back it.
And I had one more question
Yep,
for, this kind of relates to the section 17 on bereavement, but specifically it's back to the first page, section 2.
I'm going back, just give it a sec.
But it kind of relates to the definitions.
Mhm.
The other close relative. So is there a place where that's clearly defined what other close relative is?
What has been the past interpretation? Close relative?
Yeah, so
I thought it was just member of household.
In the contract, it
That
has
is-
originally, it had.
It has other close,
originally-
yeah, other close relative.
So that's one of the reasons why we're trying to define it in the definitions.
we go.
This
So we weren't-
actually opens it up.
Yeah, that opens it up even more than what we were trying to do.
It's related to the FMLA definition of family, so let me just go back to that, to their guidance and see how they. Because typically all these leaves have always followed the FMLA type definition that they do for family, so. Put a note for me to review close relative, yeah. It's relative. Okay,
And just so you know, by the way, almost every district around us has grandparents, all of that is in every single one of them. So just.
I understand,
Just saying it.
I understand, but it's. Just like a lot of districts do a lot of things that I wish we could do and afford. Honestly, I would love to give you 7 paid holidays, not 6, not 5. But we can't afford it. So keep adding, think about it, every little thing that I add on this contract costs money. So it's an actual expense.
But it might be more not about the flavor of relative, but the role that they played. So maybe instead of listing the relative's title, like parent or whatever, maybe, and this is just like, I know that I'm seeing more students, my prior students who are now graduating and becoming employees at the district, right? But I also know that there's a contingent of my former students that were raised by their grandparents, even though their grandparents had paperwork saying that they were legal anything, right? So maybe the angle to look at is the role that the person played in the current employee's life. Is that the person who raised you? Get away from, was it illegal, whatever, because I think the reality is if we really want to support the people who are graduating and then becoming part of our workforce here for the school district, we need to embrace the reality that these relationships are what we're working with in a lot of situations.
Could I ask one clarifying question? Would it meet both sides' needs if you had the multiple things? Maybe you get 2 bereavement leaves and something beyond that, then like it wouldn't, other close family member could be a step parent who acted as the parent. I don't know.
It's just expanding the definition, comes down. Let me go look at what close relative to see what we can do with that word, okay?
It's just that it shuts out some people who, don't have more stereotypical family situations, and then they're struggling because they don't have the bereavement leave.
I understand what you're saying. All right, next article is article, can we move on to the next article?
Yes, thank you.
Article 4. What? That's the rule. Next, then what happens? So,
It's down this fall. Right up and go, and then right now. Right, okay.
All right. Article 4 is just like, you brought back the last time we met, this article. And then in order, I went through it again and decided to come back to it. We agreed everything on page 1. Page 2 is where we have the major difference of email and courier system. And please understand. Let me go back to when we first started today. I understand that we need to collaborate with each other and that we need to start working together. But there's gotta be a separation. Okay? Me or the district not expanding this to allow LCEA to use the email system. It's not me not saying to you that you don't wanna collaborate. It's creating a separation between your members, your organization, and us. It is obvious that there are some conflicting feelings as to what, or perceptions of what the district does or does not do. And based on what we discussed at the beginning, I can't. I'm actually protecting your employees by not allowing the communication to happen that way. Because if
Could you
negative
elaborate on-
communication happens through email, then we have a problem. A documented public record problem. So I
So how
understand
do other districts handle
it.
that?
I'm gonna be as clear as I can be. I do not care what other districts do, and I'm gonna be honest. I don't. I only care about what happens in my district. Okay, and I'm not being mean about it. I have to concentrate in us, work on us, not what other districts are doing. So when I look at contract, when it comes to bargaining, I mean, I believe I explained this in one of the other sessions. There is no statute that mandates a district that has to provide union. What they say is that in the state of Florida, and this I reviewed with our board attorney, it's bargain. You can bargain it, which is what we're doing. It's up to the district whether they want to allow to use that resource for communication. We extended the communication to exactly those topics. Agreement in language, changes, contract verification, voting results, any type of meeting information. That's it. You can communicate with all your members with that information, nothing else. If you want to communicate with members in any other type of way or any other topic, you have their personal communication. They're your members. It's not a responsibility for the district to provide that. And it has to be a set separation. And I'm gonna be honest with you, right now, there's an email that went out with a survey. That's not even part of the contract.
So I guess I'm confused about that because we explicitly talked about surveys being allowed during bargaining.
I don't recall that. I know that you said that, but then I start looking at surveys and I'm like, you know what? If I were to read a contract, a survey is a violation of contract.
So I guess I'm really.
No,
confused.
no, but that's fine. If you want to send surveys, you can use Picture and send all the surveys you want. Just like any other company out there that sends surveys, they go through our district Picture system for that.
So I just had a member literally say today they got an email from the University of Alabama.
They paid to send a survey.
Through the regular email, not through Peachtree,
Yeah,
through email.
and
Well,
I know for a fact I sat here with you, with Mr. Farnsworth, and we talked about how our bargaining unit members should have a right to have their bargaining contract regulated by our bargaining unit and the ability to sort of send a survey. So I guess I'm a little confused because on one hand, we're saying we want to collaborate and we want to work together in communication, but at the same time, you're saying you want to create a separation And we already have a separation.
No,
of
I'm not
between
creating-
members.
You wanna use our email system for your organization. I'm being very clear.
Mhm.
Use your own communication with your members, period. It is very clear. I'm not preventing you from communicating with them. We are very clear with the contract. Explicitly clear. But like, when the type of what we discussed is at the beginning with the press releases and the negative tone of all that, and I know we discussed it and we're gonna move forward. No, I can't. I don't see myself how your communication or members that are the ones driving your communication will behave using our system.
Well, we have sent out communication through the district, and we have sent it to you for approval, and we have had conversations about that. So what we communicate to our members through personal email is not the same as what we communicate district-wide.
Well, I am going to be clear with the email and carrier system. Stick to contract, okay? I am not deviating from it.
So I think that this is a misstep, that we're not willing to look at what other districts are doing and to say that we don't care about what other districts are doing, including this language. Does not send a good signal to our educators who are constantly seeing what other districts are doing and saying, why isn't Lake County doing this? Why isn't Lake County doing this? It's not helpful for morale. It's not helpful to attract and retain our employees. And this is a free thing. This costs the district no money.
Well, it's there for a reason, so we're gonna.
And I
keep
would
it that way.
agree that other districts have realized that the collaboration is more important. And so moving forward, I would say it's something that we need to look at.
At this time, we're not gonna deviate from it, just. I'm being very clear today with the communication. From now on, we're gonna keep it clean. And I need it to stay to contract,
And you know that our members are your employees as well.
correct?
So, and the things that we communicate
I-
is to all employees of Lake County Schools.
I don't have an issue telling my members that I don't have a problem with you communicating with them with contract language, contract ratification, election voting result, or meeting information, period. If they wanna communicate anything about you other than that, they have a personal email they can choose because they're paying you a membership fee. They should communicate with you however you communicate with them, not through our email system.
So then I guess it would go back to what I said at the beginning, that we need to work better on collaboration with communication. Because a lot of the communication we're doing is helping educators understand things. It's not being communicated by the district.
And I would, honestly, I think from today, probably we need to start working better at collaboration with communication. But we started the meeting that way. And we are probably gonna have to work on it, because based on what has been said on press releases, I'll be honest with you, it's not. And I know that you say I'm sorry and you take full responsibility, your messaging is not, it's driven by your members, but it needs to change. And I don't feel comfortable or agree with allowing our email system to be used through your members that any other way than what's in the contract. I have it based on all your press releases, just on that. Why would I?
But we have not sent a single piece of that through district email.
No, I know,
But
but,
we wouldn't.
but that's the message that I'm seeing outside, so why would I?
There's a difference between what people put on social media and what people do in their professional communication. Don't you agree?
I think we can agree to disagree on this topic. So. I do agree with the last sentence. No material should be sent through the district email, which violates federal, state, and local laws.
So, could I just ask for clarification, because as I mentioned earlier, there was a statement made during bargaining about surveys and collecting data for our bargaining unit members. So are you saying we're not allowed to do that now? Either?
You say that I said in bargaining that you can send surveys.
It was a meeting with you, Mr. Farnsworth, and it was a bargaining meeting or a bargaining subcommittee meeting. And we were discussing emails last year. And it was said, we understand that you need to collect data from your bargaining unit members, because honestly, that is like. It's either a state statute or it's part of.
Well, I will clarify that tomorrow. I'll talk to Mr. Farnsworth tomorrow.
Okay.
If he calls that, then I will,
Because we have to have the ability to regulate and.
I will
Work on
check,
our
I will
collective
check
bargaining.
that on that meeting. I don't recall that. I do recall us talking about communication. I just don't recall exactly that word surveys. So, but, again, I will check with him to see on when we met and discussed that. So,
Elizabeth, might I say something? I think it's also important to remember, Mr. Zamora, that as an organization, we represent the entire bargaining unit of instructional personnel, not just our members. So the framing of that is, as a bargaining unit member, I feel like is inappropriate. Because if we're trying to communicate with the entire unit, right? If you're not a member, for example, of LCEA, and we don't have your personal information, you might not know that we're trying to collect information on your working conditions or your teaching conditions. You may not know that. So we're trying to make sure that we get to everyone because we do represent people who are not dues paying members. So that's part of the reason why surveys would be helpful if we're surveying the entire unit, so that we can gain a better understanding for people that are not only members. If this was only about a member discussion, if we were only trying to target members, I can see it from your perspective. Well, why don't they just email their own people? They have all their email addresses. That's correct. But we don't just represent members. We represent the entire instructional bargaining unit. People who are not dues paying members, people who have not given us their personal email addresses. So we need to be able to contact them and let them know we are trying to negotiate these things. We need to hear your voice. Is this something that you would like us to continue to speak to or move with that understanding? So I just wanted to clarify just that little piece, that we're not just here for members, we're here for the entire unit. And if it's just related to their working conditions, their teaching conditions, contractual things, to cut those people off from that knowledge, we don't know why they're not members. Maybe they can't afford it, maybe whatever, but we don't want it to be that they never knew what was happening in a broad sense, not in a targeted, be a member of LCEA. Just know what is happening on your behalf. And if you're not happy, then we can also know that as well. But at least we gave them the opportunity to understand what was being asked for on their behalf. Does that make sense a little bit better?
Could I?
I mean, you may not agree with me, but I just wanted to share that piece.
noted. Can we move on?
Go ahead.
We agreed on 6, 7. Or I'm just going through the contract. And I'm gonna clarify. I don't agree. And on 9:30, you said you have said that you agreed with the end caseloads being stricken out, so I just changed it to green. I do not agree with the class size and caseload numbers will be reviewed at our work site through the Joint Leadership Committee. See Article 11, Section 1G. We already have a Joint Leadership Committee. I don't want to restrict what or say what you can or cannot discuss during that meeting. If you wish, if your member wants to discuss that or bring it up as a concern or issue, they can do it, but I don't need to add that to language in the contract. We already have language that there is a meeting that happens to discuss issues at the site. So there's not need to add that in that language, in that particular section. Now, Section 11, there's nothing, everything's agreed on. Section 13. I don't agree adding, and I kept the red language, I don't agree adding the language except in the course of fact finding conducted under the grievance process. We already have a set process for grievances and we follow that. And we have meetings scheduled in which we talk to staff members and all that. So I don't agree to adding that language. I don't think it's needed to be added in there, so. Last page, first section. And we agree with that language, except we wanted to put the association representatives shall be given an opportunity following the conclusion of each faculty meeting prior to dismissal to present brief announcements. We have no issues with that. I believe the principal, as long as you notify the principal, as it states there, that you want to say something at the staff meeting, there should not be an issue following the end of the staff meeting. And that's the only reason we crossed the word at and put the word following. And middle paragraph, we agreed there. The last paragraph, again, association announcement, we use the building, no, we don't, that's a district resource, we do not agree with using that language. And I will leave that up to the principal at the time, if you request an announcement, it's the end of the day, and they wish, I will leave that to the description of the building administrator to decide. But I'm not gonna put that in contract language. And then I had a question at the end on the word monthly. And before I agree on that, I pretty much we agree on everything except the word monthly, but I wanted to ask a question. If, when you say association representatives, who are they?
Well, ideally, we want everything done at the work site, so it'd be work site leaders and school leaders. No,
but the principal director may upon request meet monthly with association. Who are the association
It
representatives
would
that
be
you,
work site leaders.
so it'll be the stewards at the school. So then comes the question of, are we gonna be requesting pay if the meeting happens after school? Are you gonna count that if it happens during the time of their planning? Is it go-
Is any language that would specify that?
I know, but that's what I'm saying. I don't want it with the notion that if we're gonna say that and then I don't want the now asking me for pay when you're the one requesting the meeting with the leader.
Right, well, I don't think there's any language right now that would give them pay, as is.
I'm just seeking clarification. Okay, so,
Yeah, not a stewards, it's voluntary.
correct, that's what I'm saying. If it's voluntary, I just want the clarification on it. And I do not see an issue with that, so I would change that to green. So monthly, I will turn into green, so we accept the last section. So the piece that I wanted to discuss was enrollment. Go ahead and pass that. So you're gonna get a report of the 40-day count where we are as of October 7th. All right, on page. So the first column on the first page shows you where we are as of 10/7 this year. The second column shows you the 10/14 date, but that was 10/14 was the 40th day last school year. So we're comparing where we were last year, right at the 40th day count versus this year, 40th day count. If you look at, you see every school. The actual projections at the end are based on a consultant and it shows the difference. I'm not worried too much about that. I go mainly for what the difference is between the first and the second. Each group category gives you a subtotal. So if you turn the page and you look at the back side, page 2, you're gonna notice total all schools, we are down 876 students. So I'm gonna do some simple math. On average, FTE per student is about $8,000. Multiply that by 876, and you're gonna come up with $7,008,000. That potentially it could be more or less, because what I'm going to explain next is FTE. Weighted FTE is different per grade. So if I were to explain weighted FTE, a basic grade K through 3 draws about 1.1. When you compare it to a high school grade 9 through 12 regular student, they draw 0.972. So then when you look at scheduling and you look at weighted, depending on how much a student is in school or enrolled in courses, it fluctuates per student. A middle school kid draws about a 1 FTE flat. So when I say 876 kids less, we always go with an average amount in the middle, because there are some students that draw more dollars for the district based on their grade level or their classification, if they are an ELL or ESC student. Okay, so with that said, middle school is in the middle, elementary schools draw more, high school draws less. And if you go ahead and start reviewing the numbers per school, we have a major problem in elementary, which a lot of professionals will tell you, well, there's a low birth rate, and there's also the big what if, well, how come we're expanding communities and all that? Well, maybe it's just the people moving in don't have school-age children yet, and they haven't hit our schools, or they are choosing to go to other schools. So I believe you wanted an update. There it is. It's black and white, 40th day as of yesterday. Hot off the press. What's sad is that I may not be the smartest person in the block when it comes to FTE or numbers, but I tend to think that I am. I hit that number last time we met. I forecasted we were gonna be there, and I have the data with it. So things have gone up, shifted down, and they landed on the same number. What did not land on the same number is the FTE. I'm noticing FTE going shifting up and down, and until DOE gets a number, then on their side, they tell us exactly how much we have. So it is, I don't say that to scare anybody. I say that just because I'm being transparent. It is the state where we are. And we are 7% more in claims and insurance. We are 876 kids down, and we're not the worst district, which is quite scary. There's districts around us that are in worse shape based on colleagues discussing that. And
So the last bargaining session, that was what, last Wednesday? We had talked about this and you said,
9:30.
okay, you said these numbers were pretty close to that.
Yeah.
And we had talked about how that relates to the budget. This is pretty much close to projected budget, right? Or we had said we were even a little bit better than projected.
Okay, the DOE projected us to be about 1,200 students less, if that's what you're asking. And what that translates in FTE, it's different because it all depends which kids are the ones missing. What I did notice is that the ones missing, if you look at the schools, the ones missing are mainly elementary. It's the majority of them. So, and I worry about elementary because they're the ones that give the most FTE funding district. An ESC student that's classified to 54 to 55, their FTE is 3.6, 6.0. But not every kid is a 54 or 53, like it's very different for them.
Well, this, with the elementary though, like you have Grassy Lake down 441, but that's because they opened the Horizon.
Correct. It's hard to compare those schools, but those numbers translate. But look at the charters.
Yeah.
When you look at the charters, they're up how much?
400.
400.
So I have a couple questions that came through. I don't know if you're gonna be able to answer them all, but I'll put them in space. The first question that came is about the consultant.
Mhm.
Who is the consultant for us that does these projections?
I can't answer that. I'd rather give you the right answer, so I'm not gonna make a technical thing. It's just, that's a report that I'm giving you a copy that we run inside when we look at projections there, and I'm not ready to answer what the consultant
Okay.
work implies.
That's fair. I figured that was.
That's why I said at the beginning, don't pay attention to the consultant. I concentrate on where we are and where we were.
What about, in terms of any allocations being cut for instructional, or based off these numbers, do we?
We're not there yet.
Not there yet.
That is not a Zamora decision. That is a
Right,
senior staff and district leadership. When we finish survey and where we are with numbers.
and
How-
we did had a conversation with Mr. Felker about that as
Yeah,
well.
he probably told you more than, I'm giving you the data as I see it and pull it from our not our Skyward, our focus system, so. And this is not me telling you, you're already making plans or we're not, right? It's just a matter until FT is sent over to DOE that we can officially grab on Friday. Because I believe this is FT week, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so Friday is the last day. And it's concerning, to say the least.
What about in terms of administrative positions, would those be looked at too, or?
Everything
Every
will be
position.
looked at. Everything will be looked at.
And then.
This is, I'm gonna make something clear. This is not a teacher problem.
Right,
This is a district-wide problem. And it's not something that the solution comes only from on the back of
Right.
teachers. It's just not at all.
right.
It affects leadership, it affects non-instructional staff, it affects everyone.
And that's another communication piece, because for us,
Yeah.
we're getting a lot of, well, what about administrative positions? What about district positions? And luckily, we've had some conversations, through the superintendent and through you all at district leadership, we're able to answer some of those questions. But I think it needs to be communicated more broadly.
Yes.
And then,
And I don't wanna get ahead of myself, so I'd rather say that it's a district-wide problem. We're not,
right,
it affects even me, so I'll put it out there.
the last question I got is which region have we seen, is there some difference between the regions? Is there a particular region we've seen a big decline in enrollment compared to?
I have not looked at it to that level.
Okay,
Okay, when I pulled numbers, I did it because I wanted to give you an update last meeting. And I did a poll on last meeting, and that's what I saw. And then when growth and planning pulled their report and analyzed the data, they came up with this report.
okay,
And I had a conversation with growth planning, and basically we landed on the same page. They asked me, what are your thoughts? I go, my thoughts, I don't know either. We have a lot of families that have small children, not school age yet, that are moving in, but they're not in schools, or they're in private primary schools, or they're just choosing to do something different, so.
and then, we had some conversations, and you even mentioned today about marketing and promoting. Is Sherry Owens looking at these numbers in terms
So-
of where to market?
Yeah, I know, our superintendent is part of a committee with the state that they're concentrating on marketing. Sherry Owens works with her, and we're looking at marketing specifically our schools and areas in order to attract more families. And It's a campaign that they're already working on it. It involves social media, our webpage, and I'm gonna stop there because I don't want to, because I know there's more to it,
Yeah.
and I'd rather Sherry always be the one to give me a report of what it all entails.
Okay.
Because it involves, I believe, if I recall correctly, call outs, mailers, there's a lot, but I don't wanna say too much without knowing all the facts of it, so.
And then I got another question that came about charters. Are we aware of any new charters that are gonna be opening up in the next 5
I'm
years?
personally not aware. I will have to, if you want me to find that out information, I can.
Okay.
Can you please put a question on charter schools? If you wanna know the contact person for that, it is Sabrina Dillon Banks. Miss Sabrina Dillon Banks. She runs the charter portion of our district communication.
And then the last question that came through, because obviously this is, we're not talking about compensation right now, we're just talking
So
about
that,
FTE.
I was gonna say something. Obviously, I believe I said last time that the board will make a decision after FTE. So when are they going to meet and do that? That takes a meeting, an executive session for that. So I'm not sure how close it will be right after this week, but at some point in time, I'm hoping that I can come back with what we can do, okay? So I said that the last time and I'm gonna repeat it again. I'm not, that's, they're holding until they see what Mr. Ward looking at budget, looking at the final cost of FTE, what the budget would look like moving forward. And now that I said Mr. Ward, do you know where he's at today?
I don't.
He is in Tallahassee. He's one of a select few that got invited to meet with the appropriation. The ones that write the law to get districts back more money
Nice.
for TSIA. So
Very
if there's
good.
anybody fighting the
Yeah.
fight, it's him.
Yes.
So just, I'm telling you, we're not interested in sending the message that we don't give back to our teachers. He's fighting it himself personally. So I would have watched him today live, but I'm here. He's over there fighting for us. He was asked personally by the main finance person of the state and lawmakers because he's one in the state that he's the one that helps over districts, put it to that way.
And I'm glad to hear that. And we've had other locals reach out about him because he is consulting, helping other locals.
Yes.
And we have given good word about him. And
He is-
always felt he's been transparent and fighting for educators.
So he is trying to fix the law on how TSI is calculated because they are
appreciate that.
taking money away from districts.
Right.
So some of that language that you and I discussed regarding the MOU and
Right.
Florida Empowerment Scotland, it's applicable to all that. And he's fighting because he sees it. So he knows it. And they've asked him to come up there and help us resolve it.
Yes.
And because the state has noticed that there's an issue.
Right. Well, I'm glad to hear that news and I appreciate that. And I know that personally Scott Ward is very willing to speak the truth. I think we want to see the full power of the district speaking the truth, not just him as an.
Something else that I want to discuss is there was discussion about, I know this article had caseloads and class counts. Years ago in this district, they had updated the statute, the state had updated the statute of choice, which was 1002.31. And that statute discusses basically the average number of students at the school level should be used as the basis of determining compliance with maximum class size requirements for public schools. If you are a district of choice, or you have a school of choice program, which our district is a district of choice, we can use class averages. So the problem lies that the law basically stipulates to districts that, yes, grades. Pre-kinder through third grade is maximum of 18, grades 4 through 8 maximum of 22, 9 through 12, 25. But that's only applicable to core curriculum courses. Hence why we have the PE classes that are high, the music, electives in high school, or any other course that's not considered ELA, math, science, social studies, and in some cases, reading intervention on ESOL, depending on the course, those are the only state that are considered core curriculum that goes by those class counts. Where we are, based on statute, we are meeting that. So we are concerned with a couple of spots, but when you look at the number, the average is coming right to the number. So that's the concern. It's coming right to the number.
Is it district-wide or by site?
No, it's
The
by
average.
site. The average is by site. It affects by site. So therefore, when I look at it, when I say we're concerned with a couple of spots, is when I say we may have a problem with a school with a certain grade or something, that when they look at the average of the school for those grades, instead of saying 18, it might say 18.01. It might be just like, so, correct. So then it presents the issue that it rounds to 18,
Right.
but it's a calculated, it could be a scheduling, it could be many different things. So until FT finishes on Friday and everything drops, is when things pan out. But are we meeting class size based on statute and choice? Yes, we are.
So when you're calculating the average for core classes, are you doing all of the core classes together or by subject
Okay,
area?
that specific, I'm not gonna elaborate because I'm not the one checking that personally, but I do look at a report and I looked at it and I'm like, okay, so then the system focus, when the scheduler comes in, it's looking, there's reports that match what the course is, because it goes by course. Course code. It's all driven by course and section. However many sections to that course and however many kids are in that grade, there's a lot of factors that go into calculating that. And for me to speak to it without me doing it every day, I don't feel comfortable. But
No,
there were questions about me that basically, and it goes back to messaging, that it appeared that we were being, or I was being dubious with what I said. I was not being dubious. I'm just being honest.
Is that
That's,
about the class size?
yeah. So,
I don't recall that, but I do know there was a conversation at caucus about statute.
well, look at the press release. It
Okay.
talks a lot about district not being upfront with caseloads or class counts or averages. And it uses the word dubious. So now that
I
we're
wonder if
talking,
that was in reference to the conversation with the ESC teachers about.
don't know, but I'm just wanted to clarify that. There was, what I'm trying to say is we are looking good as far as when it comes to class size. We are looking good as far as each level. Our concern is, I don't know what the 876 is gonna translate to FTE, because one student does not equal one FTE, and that's the problem. So it all depends when they do scheduling and when the DOE receives the data file, how it translates into dollars. On average, I say 8,000 because that's typically an average midpoint. So it could be more, it could be less.
Okay. And the last thing I did want to make sure that I asked, because it came to me, and I don't know if you can speak to this or not, but in conversations about our budget, obviously, with projections and everything, still the same, right? Like, we're seeing a potential shortfall.
Mhm.
So in conversations about every possible way that we can make sure that we make things happen for our district, looking at the reserves, does that come up in conversation when we're looking at the budget?
Everything is a
Okay,
conversation. Like it.
great.
Mr. Feldner and I have had some sidebars on our concern, me and him personally, because we're thinking we have to work together with allocations. And obviously, that is something that will come up in an allocation
Okay.
committee meeting, which you are part of,
Right.
and will be discussed, but we are proactive as to being a little, now that we are preparing as to what may happen, we have a head start on planning for the future. What our goal, I don't wanna end the meeting saying we're concerned and there might be possible job losses. No, our concern is our number one priority is keeping all teachers. And it's hard as it is. We understand workload has gone up because that's what has happened in schools when you reduce staffing. And we're gonna try our very best. That's our goal. So,
I know we're running late on time, but have you looked at your calendar at all for October to see if there are any other dates that we could squeeze in? Because that we really want to get done and sooner rather than later.
Can I get back to you? I know October 22nd I can.
Okay.
That day I can.
So if you want to get back to us on another October date, that would be great.
Right, can it, does it have to be Wednesday, because October 15th I have a different meeting, and I believe I told you an October date, but you told me you were out.
We could possibly do the 16th.
Let me get back to you. I know you wanna finish all this, so. Are we looking at any of the other articles? Cause I know we haven't looked at any of the other articles as far as changing the word teacher to instructional employee.
Well, I figured that we could probably just do when we.
Okay.
It could be like an MOU or a clarification document that we just sign.
So basically what's pending right now is only the articles that we discussed. The 2, 10, and 11, and compensation, obviously.
Yes, so, and part of that compensation language is the appendix. So we were.
Correct, that's
so we're
typically what
gonna-
we do.
Yeah, so appendix C and D, I think we hadn't talked about it all. And there was some clarification of language we wanted to
Okay.
make sure we address there. But
And
it's
it's-
minor
okay.
things.
That's fine. So your intentions is to do that when we bring compensation back?
Yeah, we can. I mean, my goal would be to have it the next time we meet.
Okay. Well, let me look at my calendar and I'll have Jess get back to you on the dates.
Sounds good.
And times. Can it be, how early can we meet?
I would say the earliest that we can meet, because we have schools. Yeah, yeah, probably what, 3:30? What do y'all think? On a Thursday. That would be the earliest.
Okay, let me just get back to you on dates then.
Okay.
We'll go from there. I know we have already some dates in November, but if I can squeeze a day in October
I
more,
think that would be great. Just one extra session would probably make a difference.
okay, that's fine. I'll work on that. It's just I have some meetings and dates that I have to work around.
Even if we can get that.
Great. That's all we have, I think.
Anything else?
Anything else? Right?
Does anybody in my team have anything else?
Yeah.
All right, it is 6:19 and it ends today, bargaining between LCS and LCA. Thank you, everybody, and have a great evening.
Thank you. Do you have anything else in this room that we could hang out for a few minutes?
Do I have
Is
any?
there